Good morning, everyone. My name is Ariella Wagner. I'm the founder of SunRay Construction Solutions, a national software company that helps thousands of subcontractors, suppliers secure their lien and bond claim rights. Today we have, and we will be having, a series of webinars over the next 4 weeks, 5 weeks, to discuss the survival strategies for your construction business. First and foremost, I hope that everyone's families are safe and sound, and I'm praying that all of us, God willing, in the next few weeks, this is something that's diminished from our lives so that we can get back to our normal lives. So Alex Barthet is a board-certified construction attorney in Florida. And without further ado, I shall introduce Alex Barthet.
Good morning, everybody. As Ariella said, my name is Alex Barthet, a board-certified construction attorney here in Florida. Today, we're going to go through several issues related to how the coronavirus is impacting everybody's business. So we're going to talk first about what we're seeing and hearing from our clients in the field about cities and municipalities and project closures, some new legislation that is impacting employees and employers, how to avoid delays in getting paid. We'll go over some basics. I'll talk about some important contract provisions to look at in your contracts related to the coronavirus. We'll talk about some financial aid programs that exist. Then I'll send it back to Ariella, who will talk about why and how to market your business even in this downturn, and why, quite frankly, it's even more important now than ever before. She'll talk about social media and how to reach new customers to stay ahead of the competition. We will also answer, as best we can, all of the questions you have at the end of the presentation. The way you do that is if you use the GoToWebinar software that's opened on your computer, click the little arrow. It will open up a window if it has closed on you, and you can enter your questions in that window, and we'll answer them all at the end. We have a lot to cover. We've tried to commit to do this in half an hour. We will pass out the slides to everyone at the end of the presentation, so don't feel like you have to take notes. I will also include both of our contact informations at the end, so if you have other questions, you can ask them to us via email or phone. So with that, let's get started. So what are we seeing in the field? I've spoken over the last several days to many of our construction clients that work throughout the state of Florida. County offices generally are closed to in-person business. I'm guessing many of you are seeing that. However, most offices are still open for online and phone business. So that includes the permit office, inspections, plan review. However, we are hearing more and more that many city offices are not issuing new permits. As far as known closures of municipalities, I heard yesterday that a plan reviewer in Fort Lauderdale may have a confirmed case of COVID-19, and as a result, because he was in close contact with the rest of the plan reviewers in Fort Lauderdale, that office may be closed or is closing. So that's why there's a question mark there. But as far as other known closures, Golden Beach and the town of Surfside are known to be closed completely. No inspections, no permits, no nothing. When are they going to open up? I'm not certain. As far as permits that have been issued, how do you record that notice of commencement? Ariella with SunRay can help you here. If you email her after the presentation, because you cannot physically walk into most government offices to record your notice of commencement, you can use SunRay, and she can record it, and Ariella can record it electronically for you, so that you can at least keep your projects moving. So what else are we seeing in the field as far as significant projects in South Florida that we know have closed? The Royal Caribbean headquarters at the Port of Miami has indefinitely stopped construction. They're securing the site now, and with no immediate plans to return. Sunseeker, which is, I believe, an airline headquarters, also closed. One that I heard of yesterday, Pier 66, which was a huge project in Fort Lauderdale, I believe, or Hollywood Beach, that has stopped, or I should say, hasn't even really started. They did not get their funding in light of all of this, or the owners have decided to stop. I'm not sure which one it is, but I'm told that that project is effectively stopped. We also know that under the CDC guidelines with respect to keeping your distance, social distancing, and minimizing contact with other folks, that many indoor projects are having a hard time continuing. As you know, in most municipalities, they have issued a stay-at-home order and business closure for all non-essential businesses, and construction, thankfully, at least for the moment, is considered an essential business. As a result, if you look around when you're driving to the supermarket or the drugstore, you probably see construction still happening. Right now, in most places in Florida and most places in the country, that is continuing, and we have no reason to think that it won't. However, there are situations such as Boston and other places in various cities in California where not construction generally is not considered an essential business, but essential construction is. Now, going back to indoor construction, I know of many construction projects that are only indoor, and they are stopped because while they can conduct construction because it's considered essential, they most orders say that you can only do it if it's outdoors or well ventilated, plus you have to follow all the CDC guidelines. So some construction projects cannot achieve that, and therefore they have closed or those projects have stopped. I have heard of several projects in which workers have been confirmed COVID-19 patients, and as a result, those projects have stopped, and those projects need to be effectively disinfected, and then it's up to the owner and the contractor whether they're going to start again. I think as more tests happen, more and more of that is going to be revealed. So let's talk about some new legislation impacting employment. The biggest one that I'm assuming you've heard about is the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. It goes into effect no later than 4/1/2020. It applies to any business with 500 employees or fewer. There's no minimum in the act, and it generally applies to those who take leave because of a child at home, if you have COVID-19, or you are giving care to someone that has COVID-19. And if those criteria apply to your employee, then you must provide them 2 weeks of paid leave. Now, there are various caps on those payments. So, and the law is still subject to a great deal of regulation that is going to give some context to how it needs to be applied. But this is just very broad brush how the Families First Coronavirus Response Act is intended to apply. For additional resources on this, I interviewed George Rivero, the former area director of the United States Department of Labor. You can listen to that interview, which is about 45 minutes long, where George Rivero goes in great detail about these issues. We run through some examples of various companies and various sizes, how the Families First Coronavirus Act will apply to them. You can get that at the lienzonepodcast.com. We're doing almost daily podcasts now on various issues involving the construction industry and the coronavirus. You can also go to the Department of Labor. They have a pandemic page dedicated to this, to these issues, and they have a significant amount of information. Some pages designated just for employees, others designated just for employers. This is a rapidly changing landscape, so you need to keep an eye on it. Just know that to the extent that you're going to make significant, or not even significant, any staffing related changes, furloughs, terminations, layoffs, as we get closer to April 1st, the things you may have to do that are going to change. So be aware of that. So let's talk about some things you can do to avoid delays in getting paid. Having lived through through the Great Recession, I can tell you that those folks that got paid in the recession were those that had lien rights. And if you didn't have lien rights, you were automatically put to the back burner. So absolutely critical that you notice all your jobs timely, and I would say do it early. Don't delay. There may be delays associated with the mail that could start happening. Processing of your notice, you just don't want to take any chances. So do it as early as possible. You want to start the lien process early as well. I would recommend that once you get to about day 60, after your last date of work, that's when you really need to start moving forward with your lien. Do not wait till day 70 or 80, 85. We have run into situations, and Ariella can attest to this, that the recording offices, as I said at the beginning, are closed. You cannot walk into the recording office and record a document, which means that you have to do it electronically. And while Amazon can, send you a roll of toilet paper if they had it in a day, you cannot record a document in that short amount of time. It is still a manual process handled by government employees. So when you submit it electronically through SunRay, it still could take days, many, many days to get that recorded. So you do not want to wait until the last minute to submit your lien for recording. Do it early. The other thing to keep in mind is that some jobs may not restart. What we saw in the last recession was that people were told and hoped and believed that their jobs would start up again. So they didn't lien, thinking that they were going to go back. So day 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 120 came and went. And they were thinking, well, we're going to go back next week. We're going to go back next week. And they never went back. So they lost their lien rights. Be very, very careful about letting that happen to you. Do not lose your lien rights. If you have any chance of getting paid, your lien is probably how that's going to happen. So let's talk briefly about some important contract provisions that you need to keep in mind with respect to the coronavirus. Number one, is your contract in writing? Because if it isn't, which isn't always a bad thing, it's better that it's in writing so that there's less of a dispute. But quite frankly, what I find is that if it's not in writing, at least having it, let me say it differently. If it's not in writing, that's better than having a writing that is not good for you. So sometimes having no writing at all works to your advantage. But if you have no written agreement, then many of the things I'm going to talk about may not apply to you. But if you do have a written contract, some of the provisions you need to look at are the force majeure provision, the no damage for delay provision, notice of claims, how do you submit claims, and what is the dispute resolution process. So let's run through these briefly. Force majeure generally means that there's some outside cause of an impact in your project and on your contract performance, and as a result, you may be entitled to more time or more money. Now, many contracts we review, especially subcontracts for larger contractors, they don't have a force majeure provision in your favor. That means in favor of you as a subcontractor, but it could. It may be there. So you need to look for that to see if you have any rights because of these impacts on your project. Many contracts contain a no damage for delay clause. A no damage for delay clause effectively says that if the job is delayed for any reason whatsoever, you are only entitled to a delay, a time extension. You are not entitled to get more money. If you have such a provision in your contract, then it is going to be very challenging for you to get more money because of these delays. But you should be able to avoid having to pay liquidated damages or any other delay related damages because of the coronavirus. Documentation is absolutely critical. So just because the coronavirus happened doesn't automatically mean that your job is delayed because of the coronavirus. We are starting to see, as more and more people get tested, that critical folks, as well as just labor, is getting harder and harder to get to the job sites, whether it's deliveries, laborers, skilled tradesmen. It is harder to do your work. So while you may have gains in the fact that there's less traffic, so you're getting to job sites faster, if you don't have all the people to get to the job site, it could impact your work, as well as delays in inspections. So you need to document all of those issues and how the coronavirus is the cause of those issues. If you have an entitlement of any type for time or money, you need to submit a claim under your contract. How do you do that? It is primarily dependent on what your contract says about claims. So you need to find that section on how to make a claim in your contract, and then you need to follow that process. Typically, it is a written notice of some sort within some rather short period of time that something is impacting your performance on this project. And you need to put that in writing. It may need to be sent to a certain person. It may need to be sent via email or certified mail. Your contract will tell you that. Now, if your contract doesn't say anything about that, or you have no written agreement, I strongly encourage you to put together your own claim, written notice to the party that hired you, and let them know what type of time extension you're currently looking for and what additional costs you may be claiming, so that you let them know, so that if there is a litigation in the future or you submit a claim later, you can always point back to your early notice of the claim as the basis for your entitlement to time or money. Finally, you need to check the dispute resolution provisions in your contract. Do you have to mediate first? Do you have to litigate? Or are you going to arbitrate? You need to have an understanding of what are you going to have to do if a dispute were to arise, so that you are planning and moving forward in that regard. One issue that I hear about from clients, I've read online, that you should blindly carpet bomb all of the people that you work with, or work for, I should say, that the coronavirus has impacted the business, and you put them on notice right away. I would caution you from doing that too quickly, because If you do, depending on what your contract says, you may be in what's called anticipatory breach of your contract. Meaning, if you gave them notice of a delay that you contractually don't have a right to, then you may be in breach of the contract just by sending that notice. So be cautious about a blanket notice to everybody that you're going to ask for more time or you're going to ask for more money. It needs to be done more surgically rather than via a shotgun approach. As far as some other resources you can look to, you can go to thelienzone.com/COVID-19. We have a page dedicated just to these and many other issues. If you are looking for more information on in the field issues related to tool cleaning, COVID-19 tool talks, toolbox talks, meeting minute issues, again, a COVID-19 preparedness plan. The ABC has put together a great series of resources for you that you can download and customize to your needs. Let's talk about some financial aid programs. Just last night, 1:30 in the morning, Congress passed the $2 trillion bill. And it is obviously only hours ago that this happened. The details are very general, and the implementation is unclear. What do we know so far? My guess is if you turned on the news, you'll probably hear something like this. Most Americans may get up to $1,200, their children $500 each. A $500 billion loan program for companies and a $367 billion program to assist small businesses to deal with payroll. Those are all part of this $2 trillion plan. It also includes additional funding for unemployment and $150 billion for hospitals. Again, I don't know how to apply that information. It does not exist yet. I suspect that will be coming out shortly. Some other resources with respect to financial aid. The Florida Department of Economic Opportunity, the DOE, does have loans available, no interest bridge loans up to $50,000 for companies with 100 employees, up to 100 employees. And you can apply to that at and learn more about it at floridadisasterloan.org. So again, it's a bridge loan that's has no interest. If you need it, I suggest you go to that website and check it out. The Small Business Administration, the SBA, is also making available long-term, low-interest loans of up to $2 million available to small businesses and nonprofits. Long-term being up to 30 years. Interest rates are very low at 3.75%. You can go to disasterloan.sba.gov to get more information on these loan programs as well. Florida also has their own website where they have information on everything I've talked about, plus other information. FloridaDisaster.biz has direct links to the DOE Bridge Loan Program, the SBA Economic Injury Loan Program. It also has something rather interesting. You know, part of disaster relief is understanding what people need and what's happening to their business. So they have a business damage assessment survey that will give you an opportunity to answer a questionnaire, to provide information about the economic losses arising from COVID-19 that are happening to you. There is a Florida and federal tax assistance program that is being put in place. So you can go to the Florida Department of Revenue. They have a special team dedicated just to COVID-19. If you go to the Florida Tax Assistance the Florida Department of Revenue website, they have a page dedicated to that. I have their email address here, COVID-19 taxhelp@floridarevenue.com, to ask any questions you have. The federal tax assistance program is starting to take shape. I mentioned the Families First Act. A component part of that act is tax relief to the extent you have to make payments to people for the 2 weeks of paid leave. And you're going to get that back in the form of either a check or much more likely a tax credit. So, as you've probably heard in the news, the April 15th deadline for taxes has moved to July 15th. And there's a lot of information on federal tax assistance at the irs.gov website. You can also defer any payments of federal income tax that may be due on April 15th to July 15th without penalties and interest. So you need to look into doing that. And with that, and if you have questions about any of those things that we talked about, make sure to ask your questions. But with that, I turn it over to Ariella with SunRay.
Thank you so much, Alex. So, like Alex has mentioned before, all of that information will be given to everyone, so you can look it up. I would definitely take time today, tomorrow, immediately, and start signing up for any of the government programs that they're giving you assistance on. So what our strategy here for the next 4 to 5 weeks on these webinars is to discuss what we could do to stay afloat. This too shall pass, everyone. We will be back out there, God willing, in the next, I would say, 4 weeks. We will, you'll see a decrease in this virus, and we'll be back to normal. So what do we do in the meantime to stay in touch with our customers? So here are the consequences that are evident to everyone on this webinar. Less opportunities to promote your brand at the moment. It's the increased dependency on digital platforms. Discovery of new users is limited. Market research is restricted to online tools, and the customer churn. So in our next slide here, you have to stay connected to your customers. This is absolutely essential. How do you do that? You want to leverage your social media. Everyone who hears the word social media, what does that mean? So on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter accounts, you want to make sure that you are in front of your customers, connecting with your customers. So here's some stats. 68% of American adult, 68% of American adults are using Facebook. Especially right now, everyone is on their phones, on the that's their means of communication. 74% of those Americans access their Facebook daily. 95% of local businesses are using Facebook. So that's a huge, important part of your business right now. If you're not doing it, you want to start now. 41% of Americans on Facebook are age 65 and older. 54% of consumers reach brands on social. So let's go on to our next slide here. So again, finding new ways to promote your brand. Create new opportunities on platforms like I just discussed with Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, the social media platforms there. Changing your social media strategy to reflect the latest trends, which again, that is 100% you focusing on your social media platforms right now, more than ever. Okay, next slide, please, Alex. Okay, so we are going to go through these quickly. Really, with the third one here, or we'll go 90% of the searchers haven't made their mind up about a brand before starting their search. So these stats can also assist you for those companies that where I would say having shopping carts, or your companies that are electrical, electricians, any company where, and you're getting phone calls to your office for, hey, I need to head out and go to this house because a disposal's broken. How are they going to find you if you're not online? So 52% of web traffic worldwide is mobile. So especially now, wow. Google drives 90% of mobile search traffic. More than 46% of Americans will check their smartphones before getting out of bed. So over 51% of smartphone users have discovered a new company or product while conducting a search on their smartphone. Okay, let's go to the next one. These are all basically the same things that I was discussing regarding your marketing campaigns. Let's go to our next slide, trying to keep our webinar under 30 minutes here. Selling online, 72% or more form submissions were seen after website redesigns. So we don't have a lot of time in the world right now, but companies that, especially after the coronavirus, remember that people will still have an internal fear and they're still going to be cautious. It's going to be like turning a ship. People aren't going to go right back out and go back to business as usual. Things will be changing. Social media, your website platform, absolutely essential for your future business. This will change. Coronavirus will change this significantly. 110% growth in website leads with marketing, 83% increase in website traffic with marketing. Let's keep going. Next slide, Alex, thanks. Customers want that easier experience. I know everyone right now on the webinar, when you're thinking about payment, checks in the mail, think of the future of what it's going to be, paying by credit card, ACH payments. So you want to make sure that you have a very simple payment method for customers, especially with social distancing at the moment. Some of the medical facts that I have heard, the coronavirus can last on metal for 12 hours. On paper, it can last for a few hours, 3 hours. So you're going to see changes even with the methods of payment. So everything you want to make is easier for your customer, so that you can also, most importantly, get paid faster. So if you have those methods in your systems, fabulous. If you don't, you want to consider other methods of payment other than the old-fashioned check. Simple CTA, drive traffic with content strategy. Again, all these, we're going to be giving more seminars and, webinars on these topics. I know some of these are unique terms to marketing, but we'll discuss that for our next webinar. Next slide, please. So at the end, what you want to do is e-commerce website designs, social media management and pay-per-click advertising. To go into it very simply, your e-commerce websites, those who have online cart, who do not have online shopping, this is something you want to consider moving on immediately. Social media management, that could be done very quickly. That's just getting out there, like I just said, on Facebook, LinkedIn, connecting with people, making sure you do your own email blasts to your customers, letting them know that you're still open and these are your business practices for now. You want to let them know that you are available. That's very important. You don't want people assuming. So sending out your email blasts are very important right now. And a pay-per-click advertising, for those who don't know what that is, that's basically if you go and you do a search in Google and you're looking for a specific company. So for example, something happened with my disposal in my kitchen. I'm looking for a company that can come and help me. How do they find me? Well, you pay for those keywords so that you're at the top of the search. That is how that is the pay-per-click. So we will be giving more information on marketing strategies If anyone has any questions, you can certainly send an email to hello@cmgurus.com. If you need strategies, if you need any assistance on your online marketing campaigns, please feel free to reach out to us. We'd be happy to guide you on what to do. But again, it's not only for now. This too shall pass, everyone. So you want to make sure you're staying out there and you're staying connected. So are there any questions? Because now we have a period that we can, if anyone has any questions on the right-hand side. We have one question, will the slides of the webinar be available? Absolutely, we will be providing you with the slides. Does anyone else have any other questions? There's one other, yep. We just want to note that on our company, we have moved our contracts to e-sign and e-contracts. Okay.
That's great. That's great. For those that don't know, that's definitely been an increased trend to do it for, quite frankly, one rather selfish reason, and that is that if you have someone e-sign a contract, their willingness or ability or perception that they can make changes goes way down. So if you have terms and conditions in your contract that you want people to sign without modification, you can significantly increase that by having people e-sign it. You also have a much faster signature process rather than sending a document, having it signed, printed. It's got to get signed and then scanned and then returned to you. So e-signatures is a great thing that I see the coronavirus only increasing. If you don't have terms and conditions in the documents, whether it's your proposal, your estimate, you can send me an email. We can let you know how we can help you do that. E-signatures, great way to get people to sign your contract without modification.
We have another question here. What is the next week topics? We're going to continue any updates to laws that have changed. I know that some of SunRay's customers are on here. Massachusetts, for example, unlike Florida, they have postponed deadlines to filing liens. The Supreme Court has done that. So unfortunately for Florida customers, they have not done that yet, but that may be something that happens in the near future. So next week's topics, very similar to what you heard today, except different. Just as the information comes in, we want to make sure that our customers/clients are informed. And other discussion points, I flew through the marketing because generally we do these in 30 minutes. I'm going to answer any questions on how to get your company up and running online. So that will be a big topic for next week. Does anyone else have any other questions? Okay, hold on one second. We have another question. In our industry, many distributors are no longer requiring signatures on delivery receipts in the short term. What is your opinion on how that could be a legal issue down the road due to social distancing? And Alex, this specific customer is national, so I know that you could only speak of Florida at the moment, the state laws, but I will say very quickly, there's terms of a contract 101, and Alex can go into this greater detail, or offer acceptance and consideration. Those are the terms, whether you're in the state of Florida or you're national. So signing for those tickets, I think that may be more evidence of, and Alex, I think that you'll be best to answer that, but I just wanted to make sure and clarify that this is on a state-by-state basis for this specific customer.
Yeah, so generally speaking, it is not a required document to form to be clear, the executed proof of delivery is not a required document to prove entitlement to payment. under your contract. What it is it's a great piece of evidence, though, to the extent that there's a dispute that you delivered a pallet of tile, your switch gear, whatever it is that you may have delivered. The burden then shifts to the other side if you have a signed proof of delivery ticket, because you could say, I showed up with the truck. I gave one of your employees a delivery ticket that they executed as proof of the fact that it arrived and it was accepted. If you don't have that piece of paper, and I say paper, I know a lot of companies use iPads or some version of that as well. If you don't have that, then now the other side can say, well, we never got it. It never arrived. When it arrived, half of it was damaged. Those are going to be issues that we're going to have to deal with legally if you don't have proof of delivery. So the short answer is it's best to get it because it avoids a dispute in the future, but it's not legally required to prove your entitlement to payment. But if someone contests that they never got it and you don't have the driver to prove that he delivered it or the proof of delivery to show that it was accepted, it may be more challenging.
You
Keep
know
that
what,
in mind.
Alex? I think that there's a really great point here. I would like to further look into this with you because suppliers, one of the most important parts of this is going to be, I guarantee you there are going to be arguments made. And I think that what we could, since there is social distancing, there has to be a very simple way. The first thing that came to my mind was, an agreement of a recording that I have received the shipment of X, X, and X, and finding a way to do that and knowing that it's a recorded for anything that's over, say, $2,500 or more, so that there's some type of an evidence for supply houses so that no one can make an argument that they did not receive it. And, 3 key points. Obviously, the tile or whatever it may be was not damaged. I have received the pallet of X at this address, so
Right.
that maybe there could be a recording that could be created very rapidly so that no one can make an argument to these massive supply houses.
Yeah. So to be clear, the proof of delivery is a form that you have that is it's the same form over and over, and your procedure is to have someone sign it. But proof of delivery can exist in any form. So, for example, you could have an app, and you could have a QR code on the delivery items, and the other side opens the app and scans it, and that's the proof of delivery. It could be that the person on the other side sends your driver a text. I have received all of the items in shipment number 741. Anything that would evidence the delivery and acceptance by the other side of your materials is all you need. That's the only thing the proof of delivery does. So a text message from someone on the other side is more than adequate proof of delivery.
Okay. We have one more question. We have 2 contracts already signed, but we don't have a notice of commencement yet. Should we send a notice to owner? Just to clarify, if you were the general contractor or if you were a sub, because even in the state of Florida, this is specific to the state of Florida, you have 40 days from first furnishing labor and material to send a notice to owner. So if you're the general contractor and you don't have the notice of commencement yet, that does, Alex can answer as well, but that is an important point. So if you are just a subcontractor or supplier, you definitely want to send a notice to owner immediately if you don't have a direct contract with the owner of the property.
Yep, that I agree with you. Unless I misunderstood the question, I think you answered it.
Yeah, I'm waiting to see if there's another response. And then we have another question. Can we take a picture of delivery? Will that be proof?
Yes, that's You could have all of the items dropped off, have your driver take a picture of it on the site. That is better than not having it, right? Could the other side say, well, then you left, and your driver took a pallet back? I guess so. I mean, we could have our minds run wild on all the uh, variations of the situation, but anything is better than nothing. And if you can't get a proof of delivery, it's best to take a picture. It would be better if you got the other side to um, uh, send you an email or a text that they have received and accepted the goods. Because don't forget, a picture that you dropped it off doesn't mean the other side accepted it. Uh, the proof of delivery acts as both proof of the delivery and the acceptance by the other side. So the picture gives you half of it, not the other half. But again, if that's all you can get, it's better than nothing.
Yeah.
So if
Okay.
anyone else has any other questions, make sure to send either Ariella or me an email. We're happy to answer the questions as they come in. And other than that, I guess we'll all talk at the next webinar, same time next week, right, Ariella?
Absolutely. Alex, thank you very, very much for the presentation. And again, to everyone, I wish you, your families, your friends, loved ones, safety. And if you need anything at all, if you have a question, if you were nervous to ask it during this presentation, please feel free to either call or email us at any time. And I wish everyone a sunny day.